Back with Bobby and JJ Radio. We have a very special guest. Bobby's getting free legal advice, I think. Mr. Tony Ramos. He is an attorney here in the San Antonio area. His law firm is actually the law office of Tony Ramos, and he used to do immigration law, and he actually did bankruptcy law, and then he came down here to San Antonio, and now he's the person that you want to talk to if for whatever reason you can't pay your taxes. So I want to go right back into the questions that we wanted to ask you. So how much are the penalties and interest on taxes if you don't pay on time?
Well, there's two penalties that you need to worry about. One is the failure to file your tax return penalty, which is 5% per month up to a maximum of 25%. So let's say you owe $10,000 in taxes. Well, after 5 months, you owe $12,500 in taxes. Then there's a failure to pay penalty, which is 0.5% per month, up to a maximum of 25% as well. And if you run them together, it adds up to 47.5%.
So you can almost go like 1.5 times what you originally owed.
Yes, and on top of that, there's annual interest. Right now, it's like almost 5%. So I have clients that owe more in penalties and interest than they owe in taxes.
Wow. So you don't want to neglect this stuff.
Well, unless you want to pay a lot of money.
Gotcha. And how long does it take before the IRS gets real serious? And what I mean by serious, when they start to like actually seize assets, like Bobby's
JJ's accordion,
like my accordion or Bobby's bank account.
Typically, they will send you 5 written notices.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is you owe money. The second one is, this is a reminder you owe us money. Then they get progressively worse. And by the time you get the last one, you have 30 days from that point to worry about them taking money out of your account or garnishing your wages. All told, there's about 5 weeks in between each notice, so it could take 25 weeks.
So half a year.
So, yeah, most people
freak
know
out.
it's coming.
Yeah.
So there's really not that much of a surprise.
And when will the IRS ever allow Bobby or anyone that may owe taxes to pay less than what they actually legally owe?
Well, I was saying earlier that the offer in compromise is one, and then the other one is partial payment installment agreement, where they look at your monthly income and your expenses, allowable expenses, and what's left over, you pay them until the clock runs out.
Sure.
And that brings to the third one. The third way you can pay less is if the IRS doesn't collect for there's a 10-year statute of limitations. The clock runs out on them, and then they can't collect anymore.
But if they start collecting after 6 months or so, how would it get to 10 years without collecting? Or how does that
A
happen?
lot of times they won't come after you because, for whatever reason, they're actually understaffed. And sometimes things slip through the cracks. Or you get into a payment arrangement and you default and they don't come after you. There's different reasons. Or you file bankruptcy. Actually, bankruptcy stops the clock. Leaving the country for 6 months also stops the clock. Or you make an offer in compromise while it's in consideration for it, acceptance, it stops the clock. But believe it or not, sometimes it slips by the IRS.
And what if you can't pay right now? Like, are there payment plan options, or what is?
Yeah, there's different ones. If you owe $10,000 or less, there's like a automatic 36-month payment plan, and you can go online and work those out yourself. Usually, you don't need an attorney for that. If you owe $50,000 or less, you can get a 6-year payment plan without them having to file a tax lien against you, which really hurts your credit, and without having to show financial information. If you want to go beyond that, then they want all kinds of financial disclosures.
Do you ever get people that try to fight the taxes themselves?
Oh yes, they. The problem with that is the IRS is not going to tell you what your legal rights are, and if you don't know what your legal rights are, you end up making bad deals. And so, technically, nobody needs a lawyer, but I wouldn't advise it.
Obviously. So, what if, as business owners that are responsible for business taxes, can the IRS collect past due? Are there time limits, or is that just?
Well, it's the same thing, but one of the interesting things when you have a business and you don't pay the withholding taxes that you withhold from the employees, then the IRS looks for the responsible person or people, and they go after you individually. So that's a problem. But it's the same basic rules for the business or individual.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
And what if you have a spouse that's maybe a business owner and they underreport income?
Yeah, there's something called innocent spouse relief, whereby if one of the spouses has a business, for example, and underreports income and goes to the CPA and does tax returns, and the other spouse really knows very little, especially if you're having marital problems, you can usually, if there's justifiable reasons, get the innocent spouse off of that liability.
And they'll just kind of forgive it or say, this person has nothing to do with
But
that.
of course, there's like everything else, if you qualify.
So real quick before we wrap up, Tony, who's your ideal client then?
Well, we actually have an avatar. He's a male, 38 to 59 years of age, who owns his own business,
That's me.
who has some unfiled tax returns and is moved. And oftentimes, this person is our typical client.
Is it 38 to what?
38 to 59 male, who owns his own business. That's kind of the typical client.
I'm in there.
That's you, me,
JJ's
Bob.
almost in there.
No, I just got there.
Well, we got some potential clients here then.
That's it. So if you need some help with taxes, go to TonyRamos.com.
TonyRamosLaw.com.
TonyRamosLaw.com. This is the best tax attorney that we've ever had on the show, bar none. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back with Bobby and JJ Radio.